This is Python's Paradise. This is your host, Greg Gilbert, aka the Python Hyena, straight out of Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada, but rocking a beautiful Toronto background behind me because, well, I like Toronto more than New Brunswick. Let's just say, just can't afford to move there right now. But nonetheless, here we are on Thanksgiving weekend here in Canada, 2024. October the 13th, and we are celebrating the 50th anniversary of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which I got a well-signed Blu-ray right here. And well, folks, I have an interesting guest that was sent my way through Splat from the Past host Tommy Kovac. And I found this to be quite interesting. Yes, we have somebody that does some interesting business with Texas Chainsaw and its history. And we'll go get into that as this interview goes on. Folks, I give you Tim Harden. How do you do, Tim?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on.
Yes. So this is interesting because Tommy Kovac gave me the scoop on you because I'm not always culturally with it on some of the stuff. I'm pretty good, but sometimes, he'll deep dive me and stuff, and I'm like, okay, uh, this is interesting. And you've got a bit of a history with Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and um, I guess before we deep dive into that, I'd like to get a little bit of your background and what led to you to be interested in this film in particular.
Sure. I'm from San Antonio, Texas, originally, which is just south of Austin, where the film is made. My wife and I moved up here for work back in '95, I think. Um, and Texas Chainsaw was always one of my favorite movies, and back then there was the first one, there was a second one, and the third one. I think the fourth one was out by then. So I was always a big fan, but I also knew that it was filmed, somewhere here. I didn't know where, and I couldn't just let it rest. I had to find out, did it happen or not? What was it really filmed around Austin? Is it still around? What's the story with it? And so eventually I put the word out to some of my work buddies at that time, and someone actually came forward. Friend of mine came forward with a map of where the house actually was. And I was like, oh wow, okay. So my wife and I got up early one Sunday morning and trespassed and found where the house used to be. Apparently, it had just been moved to Kingsland, where it is today. But took a few pictures, made a really simple website saying, "Here's my trip to where the house used to be." A few pictures. This is back when internet was very very young. I registered my website on the search engine du jour back in the day was Alta Vista, um, and from there it just kind of snowballed. Uh, People started asking more questions. Where's the gas station? Where is the cast today? Um, is it a true story or not? And I think back then, well, I know I had a lot more time on my hands back then than I do now, and so it just really, uh, like I said, it snowballed from there. It was also at a time where um, the cast, for the most part, had not kept up with each other. Again, this is before social media, so I did legwork of tra tracking them down. Um, had them, swap numbers with each other because they had, in some cases, most of them hadn't seen each of them, since they made the movie. Um, and that yeah. So when I first saw the movie, um, it I had the same reaction. It was visceral. I'm not even sure if visceral is the right explanation for it. I just remember seeing it with a couple of friends of mine. This is back when VCRs were the size of a suitcase.
I
My
remember
buddy, yeah, and,
I was 2 years old the year Texas Chainsaw Massacre came out. So
okay,
yeah,
okay. So me and a couple of buddies, we sat in his room. He had no windows because there's a converted garage into a bedroom. Um, the sound was real loud. He had a nice big stereo, not nice big TV, and I tell you what, by the end of the film, my buddy had to get up and go out the back door to throw up, and I was just left stunned. So just like everybody else that made its mark, and even to this day, I'm still a fanboy about it. So I love Texas films, and I love stories behind them. And there's a lot that went on behind Chainsaw to get lightning in a bottle, and that's what it was. And so many interesting things happened to make that movie, and things have happened since.
yeah. No, I remember first when I first saw it, and I've interviewed a number of people from the film on here. Terry McMinn has been on here a couple times. I'm still in touch. Alan DeSinger, probably screwed his last name up, but he gets it.
Uh,
Uh,
Danziger, it's okay.
yeah. I've had him on a couple of times, and I met him last year at Frightmare in the Falls. Um, John Dugan's been on here. Uh, Ed Gwynn, the truck driver, he's been on here. Uh, that might that might be it. But and of course at Frightmare in the Falls, of course I met Alan, I met John Dugan, I met uh, the hitchhiker, uh,
Ed Neal, yeah.
Ed Neal, yeah, and I met oh, I'm blanking on his name, the guy that gets the mallet in the head, the first one.
Uh, Bill Vale.
Bill Bell, yeah, the guy's right behind you right now.
Oh, okay.
About to make a
Yeah.
stumble. Yeah, I met these guys and at Frightmare in the Falls. Terry did not make it, but I got a couple autographs through the mail from her. So yeah, and I just asked her recently if she wanted to come back on, and um, I think she said next year. I think she got some stuff going on, but she was the first one I got an interview with, and when I got her, I was like, "Oh my goodness, I got the meat hook victim from Texas Chainsaw." I was like, "That's that's pretty cool." See, I started this
Yeah.
podcast the year after Marilyn Burns had passed away, so I never had a shot at her, but I never had a shot at Gunnar Hansen. But I'm very lucky to have got the people I have.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I've had some good luck with Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So
Yeah. Yeah. They're all really sweet, nice people.
let's
Really
talk.
are. Especially Marilyn. It's a shame, shame she's no longer with us. And um, Jim Cito, him and his wife were the sweetest people we ever met. So sure to miss them.
Before we get to them, let's talk a bit about Toby Hooper because, and I know this goes sound like a very big sideline here, but I got to bring this up because there's been a lot of contention who really directed Poltergeist between Spielberg and Toby Hooper, and and of course Spielberg, I think, was a big fan of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, from what I'm hearing, and brought him in to direct that. And you probably know better than me about what really went on there. And because you probably have deep dived onto who Toby Hooper was. So, do you have any anecdotes about what happened with Poltergeist?
Well, well, you bring up a good point, and I'll be the first one to say that. Of course, I wasn't there, but I've certainly read several articles on it. Um, so I can really kind of look at Poltergeist from the standpoint of it, it does it have more of a Toby Hooper flavor, or does it have more of a Spielberg flavor? Spielberg is really good with the touchy feely, emotional type connections with with movies, like E.T. and things like that. And
Hmm.
of course, Toby's great with the scary stuff. If you look at what Toby did around that time, he also did Salem's Lot for TV. Uh, that was really good. That was very scary. Uh, I'll never forget the guy who played the vampire for, but the image of the kid at the window, with the smoke behind him, and he's with the eyes, and he's clawing at the windows. There, what I'm saying is that if you look at Poltergeist, you really see the hallmark of, I think, Toby Hooper's talent as far as horror goes. Um, I think that uh, 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 from what I've read, Spielberg did want to participate in the film. Also, I've kind of forgotten the details. It's been a while since I've read about it, but there were strengths about both of them that they brought to the table. This is how I see it. You got some character building with some of the characters. You've got the horror side, but you've also got a few funny things going on in that movie also that Toby's been able to put in. What you put in Chainsaw and a few other things of his movies that I don't think I'm not sure Spielberg would have thought of that. Um, I also have to say that I think that there there were some things I think about Toby Hooper in that particular moment in his life, that that he was busy dealing with, that that I think Spielberg had to step in and take up some slack, and you vice versa. Um, just just knowing some personal history about him, and how he would work. I really don't want I guess don't talk too much about it, but I think that Toby, uh, it's kind of known. Let me put it this way. It's kind of known that Toby has always had a certain side to him, that helped with the horror flavor, and I think that he had some personal issues, once in a while, that didn't make him really as available to make a movie sometimes. And I think that's where Spielberg probably stepped in a few times, and so I think that's probably where a lot of the confusion comes from. Is, uh, again, uh, Toby steps in to do a part. Spielberg steps in to do a part for artistic reasons, for logistical reasons. It was very much a give and take. That's just kind of how I interpret what I've read.
Okay. Well, with Texas Chainsaw Massacre, he certainly put a stamp on the world, and I've read up a lot about what went on, especially the the hot weather that was going on, and people practically cooking. Um, but you met most everybody. I was wondering, did you meet Toby Hooper?
I did. So I met him at three screenings. Two of them were chainsaw. One was eggshells. Um, the one at eggshells meant the most to me because big people come out to see chainsaw. They don't come out to see some weird art house film called Eggshells. You know, if they know the name, they're like, oh, it's a chainsaw guy. So I went. He had a screening here in Austin some years ago, and I waited in line to talk to him. People brought stuff for him to sign and take pictures, and and I wanted to be last. So I came up to him and said, "Hi, Toby. My name is Tim Harden," and he immediately recognized who I was and says, "Yeah, yeah, you're the website guy. You've got those websites." At that time, I had Texas Chainsaw Massacre.net. I had TCMFanclub.com, and I still have Texas Chainsaw Tours.com. And he was saying, "Yeah, I've got all your websites bookmarked, and I really like what you did." Um, then he posed for some pictures with me. I forgot what we chatted about, but um, I know I asked him questions about eggshells, um, but which was interesting. So yeah, I wish like everyone. I think everyone wishes they could have spent more time with them.
Who was the first member of the cast you got connected with?
That was Gunnar Hansen, and I tell you what happened was Gunnar always, well, not always. He after after he did Chainsaw, he basically moved to Maine because he wanted to pursue writing. So, and his mom still lived in Austin. So this is back when Gunnar Hansen had his website, but he still had his email address posted on it. And so this is at the time where I'm trying to figure out where the house is and stuff. And I found his website. I sent him an email. He wrote back and he said, "Sorry, I don't recall where it is, but we kept in touch." Um, and then his mom was getting older. She needed some more care. So Gunnar actually temporarily moved to Austin to help her out. And that's when we re really kind of connected. It's just kind of coincidental coincidence. Now, me being a fanboy, I'll never forget when I first met him. Well, there was one. The very first time that I met him was at a screening just uh, outside of San Antonio. He signed a couple autographs for me and posed for a picture. But this was the second time that I met him, and he asked me to meet him for lunch, and I was surprised. I said sure. So it was some Mexican restaurant, um, and 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 I was going to go there first, and my wife was going to catch up with us a few minutes later after work or something. And so um, my wife was great. She was like, all right, you don't want to be the fanboy. You don't want to be the guy like in that Saturday Night Live sketch that says, wow, you're Paul McCartney, and that, isn't that great, whatever. Um, Stick to the stuff that you would talk about with another human being. Like talk about his writing or talk about his time in Austin, some other things like that. And so that really helped um, get me over that hump of I'm I'm sure he was thinking, is this guy psycho fanboy or is he a real person? So so our relationship kind of took off from there. He was always super nice. We wound up several times. We would go to his house, and he would make what he called Leatherface chicken. Or no, I think my wife and I called it that. But he had a recipe for boneless chicken fried in butter and cilantro, maybe something simple, but it was really good. So we'd eat at his place once in a while. He also came to our place. He loved my wife's enchiladas. Made cookies for him and stuff, and just just had a good time. Being real people. There was always, made. I would ask a few questions, but not not be real heavy with it because I knew that he's an Austin. I can ask him you know other stuff later. We did go to Quick Hill where the house was, um, and he told me that that's the first time that he's been there since uh, the film was made. I mean, there, there's a story of him being there after the movie where people are kind of gawking at the house, and there's a fence line. But this was the first time with me that he went back to the actual land. He brought his camera and took pictures, and we talked about making the movie and stuff, and that's when we collected some foundation stones. I've been selling. He and I had been selling foundation rocks, geez, since for about 20 years now. Still have a few left actually. So it's kind of a funny uh thing, but uh I I helped promote him. Can if he was going out to uh appear somewhere, he would help me out, and he certainly helped me out by opening the door for me for with other cast members. So if other cast members, they all of course trusted Gunner, and so for Gunner to come up and say, hey, there's this guy Tim Harden, he's got a website, he's good at promoting us, and he's doing some cool stuff. That was kind of my shoe in, with uh, most of the cast. And Paul Partane too. I forgot to mention him. He also lived off of Lake Travis, um, in Austin. So I got to have dinner with him and Gunner one time. You know, I think that answers your question. I hope.
Yeah. Oh, I love this. I love this. People want to hear you, not me. So, uh, what was Paul Partane like?
So I I had just gotten the DVD, the Pioneer DVD of Texas Chainsaw that came out in the late '90s, and I listened to the commentary track, and Gunnar Hansen is on it. Paul was not, and there was some point in the commentary track that um I don't remember what Gunnar said, but he kind of made it sound like that he can. I came away from the commentary track thinking that Gunnar probably resents Paul for his method acting, for being um, hard to work with, being annoying during the making of the film. Then at some point, I got a call from Gunnar or an email saying, "Hey, why don't you come out to the lake to Paul's house, and we'll have dinner." And when I read that, I was like, "What? I thought you didn't like the guy." So I really didn't know what to expect when my wife and I got out there. But when we did, we had an awesome time. Paul was one of the nicest guys. Um, we had pasta, al dente, some wine, um, smoked a cigar afterwards, and just sat on his deck looking over Lake Travis, just chatting it up. That was such a long time ago. I couldn't remember all of what was said. Part of it is always Chainsaw, but a lot of other stuff is just daily life stuff.
Hmm.
And so that's what that was like.
Yeah, I don't remember when I saw the film for the first time, but I remember seeing it for the first time. I don't know when and around it was. I was born in 1972, so I was 2 years older than the film. Now they're saying this is based on a true story, and they say the stuff about Ed Gein and this and that. So from what you know about the film and what you know about the case, how much of this was fact and how much was fiction?
Very little fact. I mean, um, there's the idea of a serial killer wearing human flesh um, is probably about it. That's about the only real um, uh, similarities between the two stories. Um, Beyond that, it was of course, Ed Gein didn't even have a chainsaw. That was uh, Toby and Kim's idea. So when you hear that it's very loosely based on Ed Gein, that's a fact. It's very very loosely. The rest of it came from the bad minds of Toby and Kim.
I find it really funny that John Larroquette did the opening narration to this film because, of course, I know him from Night Court and
Night Court.
Blind Date and things like that. And it's like this is like a hilarious guy. In Night Court, to me, he was always a scene stealer, as Dan Fielding,
Yep.
And of course, who could forget him in Blind Date? Like this was before Bruce Willis became a big action star. He was fighting jealous boyfriend played by John Larroquette.
Yeah.
um, did you meet John Larroquette and what's his attitude about the film? Because his career trajectory went in a very different place in terms of
Yeah.
genres.
Yeah. So it's my understanding that John was smart enough to move out of Texas. He at at the time he was a radio DJ. Um, Toby somehow knew John, um, and asked him to do the voiceover, the opening monologue, and uh, it's been said that Toby paid him in marijuana. I don't doubt that one bit. Um, I, I I wholeheartedly believe that, and which is doesn't matter, but that that's how things happen. That's why there's all kinds of cool stories like that add even more color to this film and how it was made. Um, but yeah, I I I never met John. It's been said he's been quoted in saying that he's never even seen Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I don't know if that's still true or not. I know that he came back and did a dialogue for one of the sequels also. Who knows? Maybe he hasn't seen that one either. I don't know. I will I will say one thing is that uh, it there there's some artists out there that don't like to see or hear their work, and I'm one of them. I'm a musician, but I've also been doing stuff like this, and and I see videos of my interviews or something and documentaries and stuff, and I'm like, turn that off. I just don't want to. see that, it's kind of like hearing yourself sing or something, and I just think I'm horrible. So um, maybe that's the same for John Larroquette. I know it was the same for James Garner, who did the Rockford Files. He never, as far as I know, watched any of his episodes because he felt the same way about it too. So who knows?
Sometimes I gotta hear myself because I need to know I put my cat through every day. But uh but nonetheless, I've seen most of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre films, and I still consider the original one the best one. You know, um, and I met a few of them at Frightmare in the Falls. Unfortunately, I never met Gunnar Hansen, um, nor Jim Saito. I've heard some interesting things about Jim. You get the scene where he he's got Marilyn in that bag in the truck, and he's swatting her with the broom. And I heard it said that he was very apologetic and but didn't want to hurt her and this and that. Talk about Jim on a personal level.
So um, I contacted Jim. So my wife and I were going to New Orleans and for a vacation, and and I turned to my wife and said, Jim Cito and his wife live in Houston, and so does Marilyn Burns. What's your thoughts about swinging by and saying, meeting these people on our way out there? And she said, sure. So I contacted uh, Jim. I forgot if it must have been a phone call. I doubt he was using email. Maybe it was letter. I forgot, but he welcomed us in. He uh, let we met his wife Ruth, sweet lady. Sat in their living room, chatted. I had my original Texas Chainsaw poster with me, had him sign it, and then he liked to paint, so around the house, he actually took me on a tour to look at all of his paintings, and that was really cool. And we, talked about it and uh, uh, talked about why he liked to paint, the the things that he likes to paint, things like that. Also chatted with Ruse, and it's been so long now. I don't don't quite remember what all we talked about, but um, they were kind of like your grandparents. When you come over to see them, they, they just welcomed you in, and I have heard stories about other people just showing up cold to his front door, and he wouldn't turn them away. You know, from what I heard, he would say hi. He would stand there and chat with them, and same with phone calls. He was listed in the phone book. So he mentioned he would get a phone call once in a while from a Chainsaw fan, and he'd sit and chat with them. Um, he was a consummate how could you say, nice Southern man, if you want to put it that way. Um, just super sweet guy, hospitality. Um,
Did
later
he
on,
did he invite you in
there
for
were
chili?
no. Uh, that would have been funny though. Uh, um, there there was a cast reunion happened in Houston later on, which was the last time that I saw him. And so as the cast is there, they're signing stuff. People are standing in line, to talk to him and stuff. And um, Ruth, his wife, was behind there. She's just sitting in a chair, was knitting,
Hmm.
and and had a great chat with her. I mean, sat for hours, and my wife like bothering you, and it's just, oh no, boring. All these people are here to see my husband. I get to talk to somebody.
Hmm.
Uh, so that was really sweet. But that's the last time we got to see him.
Yeah. And yeah, I never did have him on here, of course, but I heard really cool things about him. And of course, Marilyn Burns, God rest her soul, gone as well. I would have loved to have met her. I think one of the funniest stories I've heard about her, and this would have been disgusting, but is and of course, the scene just played behind you, of course, where he stuffs the rag in her mouth to shut her up. And it's like they used a dirty rag. Um, ugh. I mean, I can't believe they
Sure.
didn't like prepare that. Walk us through that and her, like I'm guessing you met her and her talking about that.
Yeah. So uh, when you read up on uh, all the different stories about how Chainsaw and other low budget movies like this were made, a lot is done on location that you didn't plan for. You can't um, a lot there's inspiration that happens at an artistic level that I can identify with. That when you're sitting at home writing a script, you don't even think about this stuff until you go out there, such as those two houses in this film. Um, the grandparents' house wasn't scripted in at first. Once they got to the film location of the Leatherface house, there was that older house right across the street from it, and they decided to use that and said, hey, why don't we work that in the script? So they put in some backstory, and think, and that's a cool thing about lower budget movies is that you have to be resourceful with what you have. If of course I'm not a director. I've played bit parts in a couple movies. I'm no actor by any means, but I do know that uh, there's something to be said about not having the resources and having to be creative. And that's a lot what happened with Chainsaw. So there's an opportunity found, to stuff something in her mouth. I I haven't read the script to see if that was actually scripted in there. You know, it almost sounds like it wasn't, but it would. I could very easily see that they saw it as an opportunity just to do that and carry on because no one was on Maryland's side. You need to keep that in mind. I mean, they had Mary Church, the script girl, doing other things like stunts for easy stunts, but the hard stuff Maryland still did. So, but yeah, I think that was a example of seizing an opportunity at the time, and doing great things.
Wow. What was she like to meet? Like I said, I would have loved to have had her on here. Never had that opportunity. And what was it like meeting her?
So on the same trip that I mentioned, when my wife and I were on our way to New Orleans. We saw Jim first, I think, but I forgot how I tracked down Marilyn. But 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 she told me that she was working at an AT&T Mobile, um, uh, like sales shop, like selling cell phones, and she said, I'll be working there these hours. Come on by. I can take a break and sign your poster." And okay, cool. So my wife and I found the AT&T store. Uh, Came
She,
in.
she could have used a cell phone back then.
Right. Probably be the size of a brick. She could have hit hit him on the head with a big brick for a phone. Um, so we walk in, and um, there she was a salesperson. Salesperson had their desk, uh, uh, taking care of cellular service for AT&T customers, and she was with the customers. So my wife and I waited patiently. Once she was done with that customer, she told her manager that she was going to go out for a smoke break, and so we go out the back door for her smoke break, and that's where we met her. And I hate to keep saying the same thing, but how nice she was.
Hmm.
Uh, it's it's no cliche. She was enthusiastic about meeting Chainsaw fans. I think what what may also play into um, the cast when I met them at that time in the early '90s was that um, Chainsaw came out on home video. What, like, not, late '80s or something like that. So there's a resurgence of Chainsaw. Um, but then after that, uh, it was kind of a dead spot. You know, there there were no there was no social media. There was no uh, uh, appearances scheduled except for Gunner. Um, and I think at that time, I could be wrong, but I think at that time most of the cast was maybe sitting around saying, "Okay, well, what's next?" You know, and and then and then I come knocking and say, "Hey, I've got a website, and and I'm putting information out there that's not out there, that people are genuinely interested in." And I think that's part of the enthusiasm that the cat that the cast had when I met them at that time. Um, so, but getting back to Maryland, um, just not nice as could be. Signed my poster. We traded numbers, and up until her passing, she would call once in a while just to say hi, just to talk to me or talk to my wife, um, and see how we're doing, how Texas is doing, how our jobs are doing, and we'd ask her how she's doing, how she's feeling, what she's up to, and it it's been a while since I thought about that, actually. Now that I'm talking about that, I kind of miss that. I,
Hmm.
I I do miss that. You know, just on a personal level. Um, she her and of course Paul, um, and Gunner. They're all people that we get to. My wife and I were really lucky to get to know them at a personal level, and they're no longer here. It makes the world not as colorful as it used to be. You know.
Yep. No, and it's funny hearing you tell these stories, and it's like we lost a lot of celebrities just this year, and
Yeah, but
I'm being reminded of my age. Like people say, well, I'm just young. Well, I'm 52, and I'm like, yeah, well, I'm starting to fall apart at 52 as well. You know,
yeah, me too.
I had a retina operation this year, and had root canal, and I'm like, yeah. I went to
Yep.
work this past week while sick, you know. It's like I feel my age, and I started feeling myself fall apart right about 51. So I'm like, oh my.
Yeah,
But
you and I both. Yeah.
yeah, but nonetheless, I have interviewed John Dugan, and uh I find it funny. You see him in the makeup and then you meet him in person. And it's funny that they had a person under all that makeup, you know, because I didn't know that for
Right.
years, you know. And I bought John a beer at Frightmare in the Falls. I met him. They had the Texas Chainsaw people all in one section. And then they had because I was there with one of the other guests. You know, I was assisting one of the other guests, not from Texas Chainsaw. I was there with Lisa Langlois from class of 1984. And afterwards, we went to the hotel they were staying, and down the lobby area there was a place where you could get beer and food and this and that. And I said to the bartender, I said, "See that guy over there is John," and said, "What's he drinking?" And she told me, and I said, "Get him another one on me," because I remember he signed a free picture for me. And I said, "You don't have to do that." And he says, "No, I did your show." And I was like, "Yeah, you did my show. You're doing me a favor, you know. I don't get paid for this, but still." But he was very humble. So he said, "Oh, well, you can buy me a beer." So I bought him a beer, you know? So there you
That's
go.
awesome.
Yeah. So
So
if I
he didn't ask to suck blood from your finger.
nobody talked about doing that with Marilyn, and he said he was instructed to suckle on it like it was like breastfeeding, which I gotta imagine Marilyn probably felt great about hearing that.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, did we? No, no, that scene is coming.
Oh, I seen it happen
So
behind you, I'll tell you. Yep. But nonetheless, he talked about that, and it's funny seeing him in the movie and then meeting him in person. I'm like, okay, you're a little more active than you were in that movie. I actually thought they had a dummy there or something.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah. You know, he was also part of the crowd at the cemetery
yeah.
at the start of the film. Yeah,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
I know now. Yeah. When I interviewed him. Yeah. So you brought that up. And of course, Ed Neal. I met him at Frightmare in the Falls. Never had him on the show. Uh, Seemed like a nice guy. I would love to get him on here. And he said something about his manager and having a hard time doing interviews because man, number one, I wish managers would just step the hell aside. You know, we don't all bite. You know, I'm so far I haven't harmed you. I've done well with the cast I've had on here. So it's like, Ed, come on,
yeah,
come on the show. If your manager sees it after, he'll see that you've been treated well, you know. Um,
yeah.
so that
Well,
bothered me a bit, but
yeah. Let me. So Ed comes from a place where um very early on when him and the rest of the cast and crew of Chainsaw got screwed out of money from Bryanston. From then on, Ed Ed seemed to take on the front face of the effort to uh, get compensation. Since since I'm Ed has been very passionate about making sure um, that 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 himself and the cast are treated right because there, there's a lot of people that don't. We
Yep.
know that. Um, and Ed Ed was pretty very involved with the lawsuit. Think there were one or two of them brought up against Bryanston for uh, money owed to them for distribution that they didn't get. And of course, they all felt very screwed over by the point system. They were basically told that they had a certain number of points, but actually the points were half of that, um, because some of that was sold to investors so that Kim and Toby could finish making the movie, but they didn't share that with the cast.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, um, it's there. er, er, Cast members react differently, to situations like that. And such as Alan Danziger, when he did the interview for The Shocking Truth in 2000. Um, he just, with a smile said, I was hoping to make a few shekels, but it was not to be. Um, and that's a lighthearted way of putting it. But of course, you got other personalities, and Ed is a different personality who's very concerned and wants to make sure that, like I said, him and the cast are treated like they should be. Um, so I totally get that, and that's something that I've run into also with early on with Ed. He and I took a very long time to, I guess, feel each other out that I'm that Tim Harden is an okay guy, and Ed is super cool. I never really feel like that I had to promote him. I never felt like that he needed or wanted help in what he was doing. And so Ed and I, we know of each other. We used to swap emails, but uh, Ed very much has Ed stuff going on that he does well. You know,
Mhm.
um, uh, uh, and I think he probably has the most acting related work probably out of the rest of the cast, and doing voiceover work and acting and whatnot. So he's worked very hard at at trying to stay relevant and still trying to be out there doing doing his art.
Well, I see behind you the trucker situation. I had I've had Ed Gwynn on, but Tommy Kovac actually had the guy that's stopping in the small blue truck on
Yeah,
this past week, and uh, I think that was the first interview the guy did was with Tommy. Tommy seems to know how to find these people, and but I had Ed Gwynn on, and I talked about, I asked him about what do you think happened after that, with the trucker character, he went on to what he thought would have happened and this and that. What are your theories?
my theory is that it doesn't matter. My theory is that it's up to you. What do you
As
think?
long as Leatherface is still dancing?
as long as he's still dancing and causing mayhem. Yeah, that uh, there's there there's there's some movies that leave a lot to the imagination, and that's what makes them timeless.
Hmm.
Um, not only Chainsaw, but I'm a huge fan of 2001: Space Odyssey,
Yeah.
and people try to decode what does the end mean. Well, what does it mean to you? That's the real question. You know, there's countless movies. Another one of my favorite horror movies is Jacob's Ladder. When that came out, that freaked the heck out of my wife and I, and we talked for days afterwards, and trying to put it all together. When the movie makes you think, that's when it really becomes something special. Because the theater of the mind is a lot more vivid than the theater that you're seeing in front of you. Like go back to the radio days, um, before television. You had people acting out these parts on the radio, just like War of the Worlds. People actually thought that the man was commentating on a actual alien invasion, because the theater of the mind is so much more vivid and believable than what you sometimes see in front of you. So when it comes to questions like that, what do you think would happen with this character, or that character? I don't know. So I like to treat that as a toy that I pick up once in a while and think, okay, well, maybe he did this. Maybe he kept running and someone picked him up, or or maybe a year later I might pick up the idea like a toy again and say, I wonder if Leatherface actually caught up with him, or maybe the father found him while he was driving to work. It's a sandbox. You get to pick up these toys that Toby and Kim left you in the sandbox and keep playing with them. Like you might do with a GI Joe figure or something. That's what goes on in my head.
Let's talk about Alan and Bill and Terry, because we haven't touched on those three yet, you know. Um, I met Alan at Frightmare in the Falls. He had his CD with him, you know, and he was great to me. I had him come on here, and I think he has the Weed Whacker or Weed Whacker massacre thing going, which I think is
Yeah,
hilarious.
yeah.
You know, it's funny. I have messaged him before Frightmare in the Falls, and when I met him, he was like, "Oh, I was trying to get in touch with you. I did, and I lost your email or blah blah blah." And then, but anyway, I had him and the other fella involved with the Weed Whacker massacre on the show, and I had him on solo um, back several years ago, and I had a great chat with him, and I said to him, I said, "Do you ever miss your hair that you had at that time?" I tease. I said, "You need some Advil? I got some." Oh, he was a great guy, Alan was, you know, and I talked to Bill. He said he'd come on the show. I haven't made that happen yet, so I'll have to get on that. Um, I love Terry. I wish Terry had have been there. I think it was John Dugan said she wasn't feeling up to it or something, or was ill or something. But I did contact her recently on her fan page, and she said, "Yeah, she'll come back on the show." And you know, I think that I got a couple of autographs in the mail from her. Well, one, of course, of her on the meat hook. I was always stoked when she was the first one I had on here from the movie, and I was so stoked because I was like, she was the meat hook victim, and that's such an iconic moment in the movie. Her on the meat hook, and so uh, she's been very nice and of course I always remember she said if you contact me please contact me Texas Chainsaw stuff on my fan page and I was like yeah I can do that. So I've been very
Yeah.
respectable with her on that and I don't talk to her a lot. I respect her privacy but I remember before I interviewed her excuse me I called her because she, of course, gave me her number for connect for the interview, but she wanted to talk to me before the interview because I think she wanted to get a feel of who I was and what my intentions were. And
Yep.
yeah, but I've had her on twice, you know, and she's willing to come on again and love Terry. And she just wanted to feel out what my intentions were. And she found out that my intentions were good.
Speaking of which, when you're meeting the cast for the first time, um, when I was running the official fan club, some years ago, I was writing newsletters, um, and in an effort to come up with something new for a new newsletter, I thought, man, I wonder what happened with the truck driver Perry Lorenz, and and I found him uh, at the time. This is early 2000s, and he was actually, or I found out that he was into real estate. I'm not sure he was a realtor, but that was his business, and I very readily found his email, um, and I shot him a message and said, "Hey, are you?" In so many words, saying, "Hey, you're the same guy," and he wrote back and said, "As a matter of fact, I am. It's good to hear from you." And he was real nice about it, and we corresponded via email, uh, and I sent him some questions, and he answered them, um, and and I put it in my newsletter. I think since then, social media, of course, has exploded, and it's a lot easier to find people these days. But certainly back then, he was surprised. I got the feeling from him was like, no one remembers that I did that. Why are you calling me? But but yeah, it's great to catch these people, um, who really think that they did something small back in the day, and for the most part, you know, there's 10,000 other movies that are just low budget that no one will ever see, no one cares about. But but you're in that one gem of a movie bit part, and you're still talked about 50 years later. You know, that's that's the feeling that I got from Perry when when I chatted with him. So yeah, it's exciting and fun.
Yeah. So, do you ever get to do the conventions and especially hang out with them at the conventions and do that
No,
scene?
I don't really. And and the reason is because, I can pretty much call and chat with them when I want to. So it's kind of like, why would I go and travel? And um I did go to a couple of them several years ago, and it was cool meeting fans who knew my website, knew of me, and um that was, I thought, kind of cooler than meeting the cast, because these people actually went to my website and really appreciated all the work that I did, and um, and and hearing their feedback and stuff. I mean, that was really rewarding. That was that was really awesome. And of course, now um, there, again, pre social media, pre internet blowing up, there was basically my only website. There are a couple of much smaller ones out there that talked about the film, but no other site it was as in depth and detail as mine. So my website kind of served as a repository per se of information. Now all that's changed. Uh, you can get all this information from countless other sources that's at your fingertips. Um, so I don't really feel that there's much more that I can contribute to Chainsaw than what I have
Mhm.
uh, previously. Um, but I do still really like that we're still talking about it. That 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 people still use that as a touchstone per se of 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 the horror genre, um, and that you know I will always stand by what I said previously, that when you're a hungry artist, when you don't have any money, um, when it makes you be more creative, and that's when your art starts to get timeless. That's when your art really starts to stand out. And the proof is in the pudding with this movie for sure, that there's a lot of originality in it, a lot of timeless um, talent and work went into it that we're still talking about it 50 years later. You know, what other movies out there are people still convinced that it's true? They think it happened.
What,
To
you don't think Attack of the Killer Tomatoes really happened?
there was a cruise that came in interviewed me some years ago. I totally forgot who it is. It's been so long now, but after we chatted and and we did their thing, they went to a Home Depot that's probably like about 5 miles away from me, and they were smart. They just went out in front of the store and interviewed random people, and their main question was, did the Texas Chainsaw Massacre happen? And the majority of people that they polled, random people going to Home Depot or coming out of it, said yes, it happened. Um, the next question was, where did it happen? Well, you get all kinds of stories. Some of them actually knew that that the Home Depot that they're being interviewed at was just almost a stone's throw from where it was actually filmed. Okay, I live about 7 miles just down the street from Quick Hill, just coincidentally. Uh, some say it happened in Huntsville, or which is where there's a big prison in Texas. Um, some say it's in Dallas. So it's always this. That's how the myth lives on. Is the It's talked about generation after generation. Parents like to freak their kids out, or the grandparents, or their aunt or uncle, and say, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre really happened, and I'm sure that their eyes get real big and stuff, and so then they get older and say, yeah, my aunt and uncle told me that it happened, and they knew Leatherface in prison or something. So we're still talking about it. The franchise is still making money.
Well, it's interesting because you see a lot of Texas Chainsaw Massacre influence in X, that movie that came out a few years
Yeah.
ago with Mia Goth. A lot of Texas Chainsaw Massacre influence in that, and I love that movie as well, you know. And but but anyway, when Tommy was uh, basically celebrating you to me, and yeah, he really spoke highly of you. Um, he said that you are now doing something interesting in terms of like you're located right near the house, as you said, and talk about what's going on with that house today, what your involvement is, and uh, take us to the modern day stance of what's happening between you and the movie.
So, um, change is inevitable. Uh, the house was moved. It was preserved. It was cut in five giant pieces, and it was actually moved to a small town outside of Austin, about an hour and a half from here, called Kingsland, where it's since been on the property of the Antler Hotel, the Antler Inn, and it's been a restaurant. The restaurant, it, it's actually a lease. Uh, they lease the property out for someone to come in and run a restaurant out of. So that's changed hands several times over. I've taken cast members out there multiple times, and I still do Texas Chainsaw tours if people want to have me take them on a tour of of the film locations. That's what we do. We get in the car. We play parts of the movie on a tablet or a laptop or something, and talk about how the movie was made. Just kind of geek out, talk shop about Chainsaw. Um, and and I've I've had people literally around the world, New Zealand, China, um, of, of course the UK, when it was brought off the video nasty list. Um, geez, Canada. I mean, you name it. Japan.
It was banned in
Uh,
over 50 states, I heard.
yeah. Uh, and so they all want to come and visit the places that they've seen and heard about in the movie, and just get closer to it. And so I still do the tours once in a while. Um, for the people that can't make it to Texas, to see the film location, it's kind of funny that I sell rocks, but they are part of the foundation of the original house. Texas has a lot of limestone, and so limestone was used for building a lot of foundations. I've made several trips back to get some, and Gunnar and I were selling those as a partnership for some time, and until he passed. But I still have some that I sell once in a while for people who are interested in that kind of thing. Um, but getting back to where the house was, there's a highway toll road 45 that was cut right through Quick Hill. And for the longest time, probably for about 20 years, the actual land where the house was pretty much untouched. And it's only been in the last, I think, 2 or 3 years that they actually finally leveled where where the house stood, and now there's a office building. I think it's some commercial property is out there now. Um, so that's what's happened with land out there. Um, uh, the house at the time when the house was moved, I did partner up with the previous owner of the Antler Inn. He was very much into restoring Victorian homes, which is the whole reason why he got the house in the first place. His priority wasn't with the movie; it was the fact that it was built in the early 1900s. That he had an interest in spending the money to move to Kingsland and restore it, uh, and make it a restaurant to complement his hotel. And the interesting thing was is that a lot of scrap parts from the house became of it, like sinks and cabinets and spindles and things. And so 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 he and I partnered up, and I sold a lot of that stuff on eBay for him. Um, uh, so that went on for several years. Um, no one knew where where the gas station was. Um, uh, I even asked Alan Danziger, and he says, I just don't remember. And Alan mentioned this really small town in Texas called Gonzales, Texas, and but he said it was like somewhere near Bastrop, like between Bastrop and Gonzales. And so my wife and I said, all right, let's just go out there and check out some cemeteries, see if we can track it down, or I'm sorry, the gas stations. And looked in Bastrop, couldn't find anything. Probably took a couple of trips out there, but then I decided, okay, there's a sign here that says turn right to Gonzales, Texas. Let's just go down that street and see what we see. So we drove about 2 miles down, 3 miles down, and sure enough, there's a gas station on the left hand side. I I think it was called at the time Bilbo's, I think. Um, and yeah, I was blown away that I found it, and ever since then it's been a stop for chainsaw fans, to go there. And of course, someone I guess has bought the property and is you know uh selling chainsaw merchandise out there, and has made like a stayover place, and has put cabins out there for people to stay at and have cast appearances there and whatnot. So yeah, it's been a long, strange trip with these locations, but that's that's the cool thing about my website. My website is old. It's got some old pictures, but now I think as time goes on, those pictures become more valuable because things change over time, and
Hmm.
and so I still think it's pretty cool that the old stuff is still out there. You can see what it used to be like in the late '90s.
It's interesting because these places, I'm going to assume, unless people don't like the attention, I'm going to assume that they probably enjoy the business that they're getting through this movie.
Yeah. So I will say that there there's been several businesses that have come through that own the gas station, and I think one by one they've all dropped off and resold the property, like gone out of business throughout the years. And I think it's because it's just so off the road. I mean, there's a highway, I forget what, I think it's 71, that goes from Austin through Bastrop. That's like a main highway that people who live in Bastrop come into Austin to work, and vice versa. Um, so to divert off of this lesser known highway to go to Gonzales, which is an even more unknown town. I don't know who lives in Gonzales. It probably has I don't know, population of 200. I'm just guessing. It's a very small town, but unless you knows that the place is there, or unless you live in Gonzales, you have no idea that it's there. And so I think it's cool that people go out there, knowing that it's a gas station, but I can guarantee you, if that wasn't there, place would still be up for sale probably.
Well, I noticed you get Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 playing behind you. I thought
I didn't
always
mean it to
found
happen.
I
It just
found
happened.
I find it so interesting that Dennis Hopper is recruited in this movie. And of course, watching him have a chainsaw battle with Leatherface is pretty iconic. And he kind of reminds me of William Forsythe in Devil's Rejects as Sheriff Wydell, this guy that's just, badass and not going to take any shit. And of course, you get that from Dennis Hopper, who's good at playing crazy people, I mean, just look back at Easy Rider, Apocalypse Now, and of course, don't get me started on Blue Velvet.
I love Blue Velvet.
Yeah,
Love Blue. That's one of my favorites.
yeah. But do you have any information about them getting Dennis Hopper in this film?
I don't, but I think the body of his work kind of speaks for itself. Um, there's a lot of movies that Dennis Hopper did that are very forgettable. I think he was trying to just maybe stay employed.
Yeah,
That's all. That's all I can really think. But but you never know. I mean, there's a science fiction movie that I love. It's called Zardoz,
hmm.
and it's by the same director that did Deliverance.
Oh yeah, John Borman.
Thank
Yeah.
John Borman. Thank you. Um, after John Borman did Deliverance, it's been said that studios give him a blank check, whatever he wanted to do next, and Zardoz was his next project. I'm not sure if you've seen that movie or not, but it stars uh, Sean Connery,
Hmm.
and it's on the surface, um, it's very hippie-esque, um, artsy kind of movie. There's not it seems kind of disjointed. It seems kind of uh, to some people just kind of outlandish. Uh, Bad movie. It's been called all kinds of names, but I kind of compared that experience of getting Sean Connery, who had an awesome career of being the 007, um, that he decided to stretch his legs and do something completely different, which was, Zardoz. You need to look it up if you're not familiar with it, or your people watching
I
this
know the
aren't.
title. I haven't seen the movie.
So there's a lot going on in the movie. There's a lot going on, and I I think that's part of one of its downfalls is that there's so much to be said that it's hard to squeeze it into 2 hours or hour 45, however long that movie is. And so to do that, and you got Sean Connery and scantily clad in this costume with boots and with a ponytail, um, uh, and a few other things, is that a lot of people find laughable. But I really liked the movie because of all the subtext, of all the ideas that are proposed in that movie. But my point is that um, I think that Sean Connery is to Zardoz as maybe um, he is to Texas Chainsaw Part Two, that Dennis Hopper maybe wanted to try something else. Why not?
Well, he was great in it, so yeah.
Yeah,
And
certainly
now,
certainly brought a flavor to it.
now Caroline Williams, of course, in this as well, and watching her wave that chainsaw around in that climatic moment was great. Have you met her?
I met her once, and she was amazing. I was at the at this event called Housecore Horror Film Festival some years ago. Actually, I think it was 10 years ago now. I got something pop up in my Facebook memories. Um, Met her there. Just oh my God, she her 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 personality is very outgoing, super friendly, um, and and we chatted for a bit. Um, we we wound up taking a picture where we're sitting on this like short brick wall. I'm just sitting there. She's kind of sitting to to my left side, but kind of leaning on on me like this, and just being herself really. And my wife snapped the picture, and she my wife said, "Tim, that's probably the only female that I would ever allow do that, pose with you like that, because she was such a likable person. She really is. She's a firecracker. What can I say? I know that she had some choice words about canon films in the Shocking Truth documentary, and that's Caroline Williams for you.
Hmm.
She doesn't beat around the bush. She doesn't BS. She told me a couple stories about you know Dennis Hopper on the set, and maybe someday I'll share them.
Hmm.
Uh, but yeah, yeah. When you get Caroline Williams, you get Caroline Williams no holds barred when you chat with her, which makes her great.
And of course, I'm not sure how many movies are in this series right now, but I find it interesting. You got um, some of the sequels. You got Matthew McConaughey in there. You got Renee Zellweger in there. And Jessica Biel was in the remake, and Arlie Ermy, and of course the gorgeous Alexandria Daddario was in the 2000 or three, yeah, 2013 or 14 one. You
Yeah,
know, I
yeah,
went to that one just because I think she's hot. But I mean,
yeah,
they totally got shit wrong with that movie. They had people using cell phones when they shouldn't have been using cell phones, and it was supposed to
yeah,
take place right after the first movie, and of course, that would make Alexandra Daddario a lot older than what she appeared. Like they got so much wrong with that movie, but
yeah,
she
yeah,
was nice to look at. So,
yeah. The most recent one that I think was just uh, released only to streaming. Um, the only credit that I give to that one was that they actually wrote the script that people over and over wanted to see, which was Sally Hardesty getting back at Leatherface.
mhm.
So, so if there's any credit for the fans getting something, uh, it goes to that film. I'm not saying it's a good movie or a bad movie, but it's certainly been talked about with fans for decades that that there should have been a follow up sequel where Sally Hardesty gets her revenge. So I kind of like that movie for that reason.
Okay. Is there any of the other ones that stand out? What do you think of the reboot? I got to admit, I did like seeing Arlie Ermy in it, you know. He's always a scene stealer anytime you see him. But I wasn't a huge fan of the remake, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there. Um, in fact, here I'll show you a gem that I've got.
Hmm.
See.
Folks, we have Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 playing in the background. Bill Moseley and Caroline Williams. I met Bill Moseley at Frightmare in the Falls. Haven't had him on. Look at that. Oh, that's beautiful.
So this is a guitar. I think only 100 of these was ever made. I get this from uh, Andrew Bernarski.
Hmm.
Uh, you can see he's down there. Um, but so this is why I like the film because I have the Schecter guitar. You also notice that there's meat hooks for the inlays there.
Oh,
Uh,
nice.
yeah, and it says Leatherface right there on the truss rod cover.
What
And
signatures do you have on there?
so I've got uh,
I
Bill
s-
Johnson is there.
I see Gunnar
And
Hansen.
yeah, Gunner's there. Uh, of course, Andrew is right there, and that is Mil Hayloft from number three. You'll see a Roman numeral three right there.
Hmm.
But it's actually a fantastic guitar. I've I've used this in my studio for a lot of tracks. So so I have to credit that movie for getting this guitar. What can I say?
Absolutely. So, where do you think the series can go from here? Is there anywhere it could go, or are you kind of like throwing your hands up like, gee, what?
I'm done. Um, it's yeah, it's it's the same thing as with these Alien um, sequels and reboots. Uh, I I I have a passing interest in seeing Alien Romulus. I'm a big Alien fan. Like I know you probably are, and millions of other people are. Which the director is even quoted in saying in a documentary that he wanted to make a Texas Chainsaw of uh, science fiction of space, and that's what he did. Um,
Mhm.
so you know, I there's there's two people that probably make the most money with these reboots and sequels, and that's Kim Hinkle and Toby Hooper. Um, Hands down, they they deserve all the credit. They deserve the money. They deserve the merchandising. Uh, you know, and, what however much money they can put in their pockets, I'm all for it. You know, because I know I would be like, wow, you like what I did 50 years ago, and I'm still banking. Sure, why not? Um, but that's different than an artistic level. It's different. It's like you know, I'll say one, once again, 2001: Space Odyssey. There's no way you can make a sequel for that. You know, I'm not even sure that if Stanley Kubrick wanted to at the time could even match up to something like that. Um, but it's a money grab. You know, that's really what it comes down to is how much more money can we milk out of a dead horse? And it shows, and it's extremely rare that a sequel does as good or better than the first. The only exceptions that I can possibly think of would be Terminator 2 and Aliens. Great movies. I think Cameron did both of those, if I'm not mistaken. Um, but what else? I can't think of any, but something that I will say though is that yeah, the for for people like you and I of a certain age that remember when the first movie was all there was at the time. Um, as the years go on and there's more sequels, there's prequels, there's reboots, whatever. When those movies come out, it's also awakening a new generation of fans who haven't heard of these movies. So they go see a reboot or something, and if they like what they see, uh, maybe they'll they'll check out the previous films and realize that there was some real magic back then. You know, um, and that's what keeps people going to my websites or Facebook pages. You know, uh, pe so there's a positive side to all that is they're helping keep the story alive and keep it relevant out there, and that's not such a bad thing, but but I do like it when the younger fans realize that that there's some background to these movies. you know uh, for instance, I was at a dentist, speaking of root canals, and the dentist says, he's like drilling in my mouth, and he says, if you want to, you can play some music on your phone or something. I said, sure. So I brought up on my phone. Uh, I've got like a 70s playlist, um,
Mhm.
and 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 so the song by a group called the Tom Tom Club came on. It's called Genius of Love. I think that's what it's called, Genius of Love. Um, I love that song, and it started playing, and the dentist, who's probably 10 years younger than I am, was hearing it and said, "Oh wow, that's from that Mariah Carey song, isn't it?" And I said, "No, she sampled Mariah Carey sampled the original song from 1980, you know, for her benefit." And I said, "You need to check out the song that it came from because it's an awesome song." And, and so that's kind of an analogous to what I'm talking about. To you know, people of a certain generation younger. I We all hope, or I hope that they'll take in what they can of pop culture these days and see where that pop culture came from, because there's a history behind it.
Yes, absolutely. Um, Out of the franchises, I know the original is your favorite, but what is your least favorite?
So probably the third one.
Okay, why the
Um,
third one?
Sorry, what?
Why the third one?
Um,
And I'm not arguing with you, I'm just
yeah,
curious.
well, number one, it was filmed in California. Um, so you had uh, total change of environment, total change of feel. You you had a budget behind it. Um, that's you know, here's Chainsaw One, two is okay, but three is where I think for for me it just really took took a downward turn. Um, a lot of people say that number four was even worse, but actually I don't think so. Um, and I'm not saying it because it's Kim Hinkle, um, but but I'm yeah. There's just nothing really in common with the third film that the third film had in common with the first. Uh, uh, I think that that's my biggest problem with it. And then beyond that, every movie afterward, there is no theater of the mind. There is no opportunity for you to fill in the gaps in your head. The blood is right in front of you, the guts are right in front of you. And then for God's sakes, they and in the films that Andrew was in, they took his mask off. I will never stop complaining about that. They should not have done that. That's a mystique. That's that's the that's a pearl within the oyster. You know, you don't take the pearl out of the oyster. You want to behold the pearl that it is, um, inside of the oyster. It's a mystery for the mind. What's behind the mask. Well, we don't know, but we're interested. It's what keeps the interest in there. And once they took the mask off, this is my complaint about those films. Then became, oh, what happened to his nose? Oh, he had a skin disease. Then you get the explanation. The magic's gone. What else is left? you know, you've raped and pillaged the entire. In my mind, at that moment when you took the mask off, you just totally sterilized the franchise. So, yeah.
As I've mentioned, I work two cleaning jobs here, and generally work overnight, so I don't get a whole lot of time to do stuff like this, although I enjoy it when I do. But I know Tommy has told me is definitely fanboyed about what your work is, but you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but because I don't know whether you've written a book about this, but if you haven't, are you?
I've I've thought about it. And the the time that I thought about it, because because people have, I've been asked. In fact, I even had a publisher come to me about it. Um, and when I started to seriously consider it is about the times um, that that I started doing other things in my life besides chainsaw. I was doing a lot of music. Um, I was I, I was doing just a lot of stuff. I was heavy into chainsaw. Then I had to put it down, and as a person, you change. You start getting passionate about different things, and my passion was moving away from chainsaw. Um, and then because I knew that I would have to put in a lot of time, talk to some people. Gunnar was doing his book, um, but really, what it came down to, if you want the honest truth, was that I wanted something to secure a deal. When I spoke with this particular publisher, I said, yeah, yeah, I can do it. Um, uh, I've got a job, I've got other things that I like doing. So my time is money. Uh, I'd like to sign a contract with you, and 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 let's set a certain amount of money down to so that you get some skin in the game like I do, you know. And they weren't hip to it. You know, they they just wanted me to submit something to them basically for free, and then I would see some very small residuals from it, and it's like I don't have time for that, you know.
Yeah.
and and there's a lot of books out there already that are very well written. Um, uh, Besides Gunners, there's a few others out there, and there's websites. There's so much more information out there now. Um, uh, so yeah, um, uh, I I did have an idea for a book that I still have, um, that 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 would be great to do. Uh, I think, but I've since passed on that idea to John Dugan because he wanted to take on that project, and uh, I don't know where that project stands. So maybe that's my contribution to the literary world if he ever follows through with that project.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I just wondering too, in terms of, I don't know how many people you reach out to from the sequels, but who was the most difficult person for you to get in touch with?
Hands down, it was Terry. Uh,
Oh,
uh, yeah, yeah. This
she
was
was
back
my
when
first one.
Terry um, Terry was very much MIA back in the days. She even talks about how she really went through a lot of lengths to distance herself. Um, and she hasn't spoken about why, and it doesn't really matter. Um, I can guess as to why. Uh, I know that uh, she ran her own floral business for many years, uh, both in California and here in Texas. And I think that's uh, we've we've never talked about it. I've never asked her. It's none of my business. I can only deduce or speculate, and so I think that's probably what it was that I think I personally think that she was possibly distancing herself from the film so that she could concentrate on her business and not have that be a distraction, you know. But then there came a point in time when she changed her mind, um, and and we talked about that, because the way I found her was, this is over 20 years ago. Um, I was bound and determined to track all these cast members down, which I did. Um, Terry McMahon was not listed in the phone book, um, but I had somehow heard that she had a flower shop in Austin. So I got the Yellow Pages out. If anyone remembers what the Yellow Pages used to be,
Yeah.
and I
Remember,
went
my
to
parents used to have an 8-track player, so I know exactly where you're
okay.
going with this.
There's no Google. There's nothing like it's Yellow Pages, and so I got the Yellow Pages out. I'm going to call every flower shop in the Austin Yellow Pages until I find Terry McMahon. Well, I lucked out because at the time her business was called Baubles and Weeds, spelled B-A. So I only went through a few of the A's before I hit B-A, Baubles and Weeds. I I I call the number, she answers it, and I just remember the conversation going something like, "Hi, my name is Tim Harden, and I'm trying to track down Terry McMahon." And she said, "This is her," and that's when my mind went. Yeah. And she was nice, you know, but 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 she did ask that that I don't give out her number at the
Yeah.
time, you know. Um, um, and so we corresponded that way. I actually at the time she asked if I would do a website for her, to help her with her business, and I couldn't do it because I just didn't have the time to. Um, but it was sometime after that, that she decided to embrace Texas Chainsaw, and I've got a few speculations as to why, um, she changed her mind. But if anyone wants to know, they should probably ask her.
Hmm.
But I know that fans are glad that she did, because we all love her as as a person that she is. She is genuinely a beautiful person,
Yeah.
and we're all glad that she's out there and reachable through Facebook. Um, she just like the rest of the cast, she's a beautiful person.
Yeah, like I said, I remember when I first connected with her, we had a private phone conversation, and she was trying to figure out what my intentions were and stuff, and then it just kind of went from there. And yeah, I wish she was at Frightmare in the Falls. That was a little bit of a bummer, but again, I'm happy. Like I said, I get a couple autographs of hers, so very happy I've been able to do that. So so yeah, no, it's a reminder. Age is catching up with us, you know, and many of them are probably in better shape than I am right now, you know. Although I still work two jobs, so
Yeah,
but
did you hear that they actually proclaimed yesterday in Austin as Texas Chainsaw Massacre Day?
they declared today that
Yesterday.
yesterday. Wow,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
did
yeah.
not
What
know
happened?
that.
So like a month and a half ago, I got a text from Alan Danziger, and he got this proclamation from Austin City Hall saying, uh, I forgot what. All right, today's the 13th. I'm pretty sure it's October 12th. I know that the event happened yesterday. Um, but he got this proclamation signed by Kurt Watson, who's the mayor of Austin, proclaiming that, what his I just briefly read it. It says what a historically significant movie it is for Austin. Um, what what a cultural impact it's had. Blah blah blah. Therefore, we're designating October 12th to be Austin's official Texas Chainsaw Massacre Day. And they had a ceremony at the steps of the, Austin City Hall. And you see, Ed Neal was there, Terry was there, Alan was there. Um, uh, I was on vacation, or else I would have probably been there too. Um, so yeah, uh, there's that.
Let's talk about a little bit of the character of Leatherface because I'm seeing there behind you, he's getting a little touchy-feely with Caroline Williams. Um, it's funny because Texas Chainsaw seems to be everybody remembers Leatherface, and yet Leatherface, and you especially see this in the 2013 movie, seems to be the if you're going to reach any of them for sympathy, he might be the only one that you can do that with. I find that a little strange. What's your take on all of this?
So I think that's great character depth, and that was kind of introduced in the first film, um, because in the first film you um, Leatherface is actually kind of scared that strangers are coming in the house, and he kills uh, Jerry, and and he's kind of panicking, like what's going on? What's going on? Well, it it raises a very interesting um, characteristic about being human, um, which is that if you do something that seems normal, uh, you accept it as normal, whereas other people would say that's not normal.
Hmm.
Okay. Um, so for Leatherface's character, uh, his job was the provider. He was the person that took care of the butchering. He was also the mother per se. That's why he wore different masks to fulfill different roles that the family was missing. And so in his mind, as the Leatherface character goes, that's normal life for him. Um, where, whereas people like you and I say, no, that is not the way life works. And because Leatherface doesn't know any better, he's innocent in a sense, you
Hmm.
know, and it makes you empathetic towards that. Uh, so there's this duality of character. You've got this there's I don't know if you watch this program called Stephen Colbert, but
Yeah.
he will
He
sometimes
just he just
ask.
did an embarrassing interview with our Prime Minister Trudeau, and that was embarrassing because we're embarrassed with
Okay,
our current Prime Minister right now. But you know,
okay,
we'll get into
I'll
politics here. But
I'll have to. Yeah, I'll have to catch that. But he does something called a Colbert questionnaire, and one of the questions that he asks is, "What's the scariest animal?" Well, everybody says, "Well, it's a snake, it's a bear, it's this or that." If I was ever on the Colbert show, my answer would be us. We are the scariest animal there is, and Leatherface is an a example of that. Um, to our knowledge, on the planet Earth, um, there's no species like us except for uh, apes, which we share most of our DNA with. But even apes in a society, uh, in their tribes, they don't do the things that humans do to each other. You know, um, uh, they the amount of horrific things that humans do to each other is surprising. It's it can be disheartening. It's frightening, um, and it's most of all unpredictable. People look towards predictability. People look towards finding a pattern in things because that's what makes us feel comfortable when we can predict something, when we know what's going to happen. Well, with people like Leatherface or the other real life or made up villains, they're scary because you can't predict what they're going to do. You can't identify with them. Um, and so when we're talking about the depth of character of Leatherface, that's I think a really compelling part of it, which is another reason why the sequels cause such a wreak havoc on the character, because it's so easy to make Leatherface an evil person. Well, that's not how the character started out. He's not an evil guy. He did things to provide for his family, if you really look at it. But down the line through the sequels and whatnot, that's turned into, you know,
Sensationalism.
right, Leatherface turning into a terrorist, basically, just causing, doing things that weren't in the interest that he had from the first film. That totally totally gets away from that.
Yeah, one of the things I find, you see that first film, and then by the second and third, it's like you got an increase in family members and this and that, and it's like it's like how many demented people do they have in this extended family? And of course, it's all done just to enhance the exploitation. There's no real logic or reason to it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Give Kim Hinkle and Toby Hooper's estate more money. They deserve it.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So, no, is there any, of course, you want to plug your website on here and let people know where they can
Yeah,
reach you?
they can go to my 23, 24, 25-year old website, TexasChainsawMassacre.net. You can also go to TexasChainsawTours.com. Actually, that's that's really just on Facebook. Pardon me. You can look up Texas Chainsaw Tours on Facebook if you want to book a tour of the film locations. We can do 1 or 2 day tours, depending how many locations that you like to visit.
Hmm.
My regular Texas Chainsaw Massacre .net site has its own Facebook page as well. But I also urge lots of people to visit all the other uh, pages that people have created. There's some really cool stuff going on there too. Um, uh, uh, yeah, so I mentioned that I do sell some rocks, and uh, I know that you'll laugh further when I say people like to buy parts of the asphalt road where Leatherface did his ending chainsaw dance. I've got some of those, not many of those left, and other things like that. I've got an online tour booklet. If you want to download the booklet and maybe take your own tour, you can do that. Just let me know. I think it's only like $15, and I'll send you the booklet online. So I try to keep it original, keep it fun. So that's all out there, and by all means, anyone can drop me a line. My email is timh at texaschainsawmassacre.net. Drop me a line. Let's talk about chainsaw.
Yeah. Any of the, I suppose they do, but I was going to ask if any of the cast join on the tours, and if so, over the years, who was the most prominent one to do so?
None of them have joined. I haven't asked them to. Um, Um, be honest, I think it kind of distracts from from the film locations.
Hmm.
Um, and let's be honest, it would cost more.
I hear you.
And,
I
and then
hear
and
you.
then and then trying to coordinate schedules with them, and when people fly in, I mean, it's not locals who do these. These are people who actually spend a lot of money to book plane tickets and hotel and whatnot. So we do our best to juggle their itinerary and their schedule to make it as much fun as possible. Make it really memorable just by seeing the locations. I've I've seen many a chainsaw fan get overwhelmed just in the fact that they're in the presence of the house, or they're at the cemetery, or they're at a film location from a 2003 film, or whatever. Just to stand there and just take in the moment, um, realize that their dream of seeing these places is come true. You can't get that any other way, and I think that's that's what makes it so special, is that it makes it into a personal experience. And I don't think you need a cast member to help with that.
Yeah, a lot of times with me, if somebody's passed away, I've done tribute interviews on here. Like I've had Alfred Hitchcock's granddaughter on here. I've had,
Wow.
yeah, Audrey Hepburn's eldest son has been on here. Um,
Wow.
yeah, I've had Sarah Karloff on here, Bela Lugosi Jr.
Wow.
Yeah, it and done 5 tributes on Zoe Tamerlis Lund from Miss 45 with her widow. It's something I do when people passed away. Now, like I heard that Marilyn Burns has got a brother out there, and you got relatives of different cast members. Do they ever get involved in any of this stuff, or do they ever show any interest, or is it just
The only relative that I've seen come forward is you mentioned Marilyn Burns' brother.
Mhm.
Um, I think he's a member of a couple of Facebook pages out there, and I've seen him comment, once in a while. Someone will bring up a question about Marilyn, and he'll chime in, which is great. Um, the only other relatives that I'm aware of, I know that Jim Cito and his wife Ruth had a son. Uh, he's a professor, I think, out in Houston. He's probably retired by now. Um, but I don't see him doing anything. Um, I know that Gunnar Hansen's wife, um, is still active, as far as uh, the Gunnar Hansen's name and his image and whatnot, and making sure that that his um, that that his image is looked out for and taken care of. She's another sweetheart also.
Mhm.
Um, but that's really it's funny. Marilyn didn't have kids. Paul Pertain didn't have kids. Um, John Dugan had a daughter. Ed Neal's got quite a number of children. Um, so I can see why he likes to get paid. Um, I think I know Alan's got a son. Um, yeah, uh, Toby Hooper's got a son. Kim Hinkle's got a son. And I think Kim Hinkle's son is involved in film. Uh, yeah. So if they're doing stuff, it's probably pretty low key, which is
Okay.
probably what they want.
Okay. Okay. Well, you know what? It was absolutely wonderful having you come on here today and promoting your website, you know. Um, uh, Again, you can plug your website again where people can find you.
Yeah, www.texaschainsawmassacre.net, and go on Facebook and look for Texas Chainsaw Tours and hit me up either way.
Yes, and you might get a free bowl of chili, folks.
That's right, freshly ground.
There any other films you have a passion for besides Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
Yes. I have a big passion for one called Beyond the Black Rainbow. Have you heard of that one?
I actually haven't. Now tell me about this film.
All right. Have you heard of Mandy?
Yes, I have that here with Nicolas Cage.
Yes. All
You
right.
want me to
So
tell you just before you get to the
yeah.
okay. Do you know there's a connection between Mandy and Friday the 13th?
No.
Okay. The director had instructed Nicolas Cage apparently to watch Friday the 13th Part 3 before watching this film.
Oh,
The
okay.
first scene you see at the convenience store,
Yeah.
Crystal Lake is mentioned.
I think I remember that.
Yeah, and it was deliberate.
Okay.
And I found that
Uh,
fascinating. I really like the film. I find Mandy I got to check out more of that director's film because I really enjoyed Mandy. And speaking of chainsaws, I had a pretty massively big chainsaw in it. But
yes,
yeah,
it did.
talk
Yeah.
about the Rainbow film.
Yeah. So the the director's name is Panos Cosmatos.
Okay.
Um, his father was a famous director. His father did several movies that I know you've heard of. But Panos uh, did music videos and other smaller works like that. But his first full length picture was a movie called Beyond the Black Rainbow, and it was after that film that he did Mandy. Um, Beyond Beyond the Black Rainbow has some stunning visuals. I mean, Mandy also has some really stunning visuals in it. Also, um, when you watch Mandy, you know you're not watching a regular movie. You're watching a Panos Cosmatos movie because of the look and feel. Panos is a big fan of the early '80s era,
Yeah.
so 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 that motif is that motif is carried in into Mandy, but also into Beyond the Black Rainbow. Now, when Panos released Beyond the Black Rainbow, I think it was in 2010. Uh, uh, he was being asked, what's your influences in there? Well, all those sci-fi movies that I love are in that film. There's THX 1138. There's
Yep, I know
Phase
that
Four.
one.
Um, there's there's I don't know. I'm on the spot here.
Mhm.
But Panis, mentions them. Um, and there's a lot of nods to these films that he loves that I love also, that are highly influential. Um, but the movie itself, Beyond the Black Rainbow, uh, is a kind of a slow paced movie, and not a lot of happens in it. And that's on purpose because Panos has said that the movie is really about the experience. Um, it's more of a visual film than one with a narrative. At its core, it's really about a girl who has some telekinesis powers that is institutionalized for her whole life, and it's really about her escape from that institute. That's really all it is, which is all that really THX 1138 is. In fact, no one seems to get this connection, but early on in the movie, when we're in, introduced to the main character, um, played by Eva Allen, Eva Bourne now. Um, there's like an announcement over the PA, like you'd hear, a doctor addressing somebody to a room. The announcer says, "Patient 1183."
Hmm.
Well, that's just 1138, but with the three and the eight flipped over. There's stuff like that in the movie. Um, I'm a huge Stanley Kubrick fanatic, and
I
so
love Stanley
so
Kubrick. Yeah.
having less narrative and more visual for me. Yeah, I can talk about Stanley all day, all night. I can talk about Panos in the very same vein. Um, and so so there's a lot going on visually with Panos's films, and I highly recommend that you check out Beyond the Black Rainbow.
I got to. Yeah.
Uh, just like a Stanley Kubrick film, just just like a Stanley Kubrick film, you want to see it without interruption, um, and pay attention to the art. There's a lot of art that's going on in Stanley's films and in Panos's films, and that's why I think Panos isn't putting out a lot of material, because he's taken the time. He has the luxury of time to make things the way that he really visualizes. It's so yeah. Check it out. I watched Beyond Black Rainbow in 2001: A Space Odyssey daily. I've got a plan on this monitor. This is my work desk from home, and one of those two is always playing all the time.
I like Stanley Kubrick. Uh, his filmography is so diverse. Like not just that. I mean, you got Doctor Strangelove, A Clockwork Orange, Eyes Wide Shut, Full Metal Jacket, The Shining, Lolita, Spartacus. So many great movies in there with and I've been fortunate to have a couple people from Clockwork Orange on the show, so that's
Oh,
been
cool.
great. Yeah, yeah. So and I've had one person from Full Metal Jacket on, and I've had somebody from Eyes Wide Shut on. Speaking of which, so
That's awesome.
yeah, I like I like the fact that his films look great, but he's also like he's tackled a lot of different genres, a lot of different themes, and he doesn't play it safe in terms of because I mean if you like A Clockwork Orange and Lolita were both heavily controversial, for example. He doesn't shy away from that, and I love that. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. He was a maverick for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And but anyway, have you seen Texas Chainsaw on the big screen? I'm assuming you have.
Uh, I did. I saw it on the big screen with Paul Partain and Bob Burns one time, and and it was funny because I'm in a theater with Paul, and Paul Paul's there watching it, and and it comes up to his death scene, and once he's killed, Paul says, "Well, that's it," and he gets up and he leaves and doesn't come back.
He doesn't want to see whether poor Marilyn makes it.
He's like,
Doesn't
all
care
right,
about
I'm.
his sis.
And uh, Bob Burns was was standing in the back of the theater watching uh, the 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 film, and I stood there and chatted with him uh, during the film, and that was pretty cool. I'm not one to stand there and chat away. If something comes to mind, I'll talk about it, but but I'll shut up too, and just taking the moment of stuff, and let other people talk. I love hearing other people, you know, say I'm a good listener, so I let people talk about what they want to because it's interesting. But yeah, it was cool chatting with Bob Burns back there. I'll never forget that.
Yeah. What's your second favorite in terms of the franchise?
I I guess it'd be Chainsaw too. Um, yeah,
Yeah, that franchise really went through some and that happens to a lot of franchises, they get their ups and downs. Like I still say with Friday the 13th, think parts 4 and 6 were the best of that franchise. I like a lot of those, but 4 and 6, I think, were the peaks to me. Um, whereas with, say, A Nightmare on Elm Street, as it gets those first three, I think, hit it best. Texas Chainsaw, I've seen a few of the sequels. I've seen both of the reboots, if you call them that, um, on the big screen. And I've had some issues with a lot of them. Um, but I don't know. I find when it becomes all about money, then you lose the virtue of what the film really was to begin with. And um, they gotta do more. Of course, making money is important. Everybody likes to do it. But
yep,
you got to remember your audience and keep that in the back of your mind whenever you're doing this. And I think that gets lost on a lot of these filmmakers, and they end up
yeah,
doing stuff I wasn't totally satisfied with, like Texas Chainsaw 3. It's got its fan base. I'm not one of them. Um, Texas Chainsaw was 2013. I'm not a big fan of that, although Alexandria Daddario I think is gorgeous, so I at least had that. Um, but one of my big things, like I said, with Texas Chainsaw 2013, like there's a moment like where Alexandria is uh chained and taped up and whatnot, and she was used as bait to lure Leatherface in, and it's like they've made these townspeople and law enforcement crazy, and they made them the fanatics, and they had Leatherface. I mean, he
yeah,
was being the underdog, and I'm like, okay, Leatherface is still a mass murderer when it comes right down to it. So it's like, why are I find it problematic when they make these characters like this anti-heroes, because really when it comes down to it, there's nothing about them to praise.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So
true.
that's one of the issues I've had with the franchise moving forward, but I don't know what they can do with it. If they're going to do something with it, they need somebody that A, knows what they're doing, and B, respects the franchise, the lore of it. If they do that, then they might have something. So when
I'm not holding my breath.
no, you're not gonna hold your
Nope.
breath on that.
Nope. Nope.
I know we're getting down on our time, but I was just wondering, do you remember the last time that you talked to uh, Paul or Jim or Marilyn or even Gunner?
Well, last time was Maryland was just one of those regular calls I talked about because she did pass away pretty suddenly.
What
Um,
happened with
but
her? Do you know?
not really sure. Um, I know that she passed in her sleep.
Yeah.
Um, now uh, was Gunner uh, we we would email uh, and then it seemed to me like it was pretty quick because he was usually responsive with emails, and then there's like a month or two that he wasn't getting back to me. Um, and then when he finally did, he says that he has cancer, so that's taking up some of his time, and that was last email. Um, with uh, Jim, I talked about that um, because he died fairly soon after um, that reunion. I did I did call Paul because I had some questions for him, and and what struck me about the conversation was when I called him. I said, "Hey, it's Tim." He says, "Hey, Tim, how are you?" And I started chatting with him, but I could hear that he was um, in a hospital. Like I could hear a doctor over a intercom. People are bustling around, and I said, Paul, sounds like you're busy. Can I should I call you back later? And I know our conversation went something like that. I didn't want to keep him on the phone. He says, yeah, Tim, why don't you call me back later on? It's probably best. And that's last time that I spoke to him. Um, and with Bob Burns, I went to uh, I was a vendor at one of the conventions that happened a long time ago. Bob Burns was there, and I'd spoken to him on the phone before, but I finally got to meet him, and I had had stuff that I wanted him to sign, and so I got stuff out, and I didn't have enough money with me actually to get all that I wanted signed, and I said, well, it's all right, Bob. Let me take that back. Don't worry about it. Just sign this stuff, and Bob says, it's okay. Give it here, and he goes on and signs it for me. And it then sometime later, I was one of a few people who got a letter from him uh, uh, that basically reflected the same verbiage that his website did. What uh, I just remember his quote of saying, um, uh, "I don't understand why people stay in the theater when they know how it's going to end." And 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 with that handwritten letter was a DVD um, that he entitled "Still Chainsaw After All These Years." and and it was like a video compilation of these uh, videos that he had made at at some conventions that he attended, just showing the fans in, you know, um, so so I got that from him like right after I heard that he had passed away. So yeah,
Yeah, it's starting
it
to
was pretty
dwindle.
special.
Yeah. Well, I hope that maybe eventually you might get a chance to do a book, but I do agree. Don't let anybody use you for it. Just do it, and if you get a chance to do it on your own, do it on your own. I think you definitely, I mean, yes, there's books out there on it, but there's not your book, your experience, your uh relationship
Yeah,
with the film. So, that's something
you got
that
a
you're
point there.
adding. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
something you're adding to it. So, um, I will keep that in mind. But I'm really happy that, again, I got to do a little shout out to Tommy Kovac because um, uh, he threw your name at me and he told me about what you do and I was like, yeah, you know what? I should do a little Texas Chainsaw Massacre this year because that film is 50 years old this year. Like, where the frig does the time go? Oh, that's right. I'm
I
getting
know.
older. I'm getting older.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it happens.
It happens, but nevertheless, I like what you're doing and I appreciate what you're doing. I'm glad you have this passion and that you're able to make connections. And I'm glad you've earned the trust of uh, people from the film. So I think that's
Yeah. Well, thank you for your time too. It was good to meet and chat with you and talk about chainsaw and other stuff that we're passionate about. And I think my phone is at 5% anyway. It's about to shut off on me. So,
well, Caroline Williams behind you is at 5% too. She's doing the
oh,
chainsaw dance.
hey, it's a perfect way to end the call, right?
Perfect way. Jeepers, we watched those first two movies were going on behind you. So Tim, thank you for everything you do with this franchise. 50 years of the movie, and I'm sure everybody involved with the film is very proud to have a connection with you. So
Yeah.
I thank you for allowing me the honor, and I apologize for being late coming on here. I did not hear my alarm. I do work overnight, so I
Yeah, I
thank
know.
you for your.
I did too. It's tough. Yeah, sure. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I did not hear any alarm go off, but I didn't forget about you. But I thank you for being a kind gentleman that you are.
You too, sir. Thank you. You have a great day.
You go have yourself a bowl of chili.
I am just for you.
Absolutely.
Uh,
As we close out with this film,
there you go, man. Take care.
you take care. God bless.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.